All right, sweet. Flatlined MMA podcast episode number 39. Ladies and gents, Fight Island. That's what we're talking about today. UFC 251. That's the topic. Great fight card. First pay-per-view on the legendary Fight Island. Dana White pulled it off. It wasn't necessarily, I think, on the beach, on the sand, in the water where the guys were fighting, but overall, still like such a cool concept in Abu Dhabi. The man pulled it off. So let's talk a little bit about UFC 251, brother. We'll talk a little main card. Actually, I guess first fight we'll touch on just upon the prelim card. How about the prelim headliner, Volkan Ozdemir, and I don't even know how to say his name, Jerry Prajaka, I don't know. But Jerry making his UFC debut and putting the lights out on Volkan Ozdemir, who Volkan's known as that one-punch knockout artist. And Jerry comes in here and he just absolutely dominates Volkan. Literally put his lights out in the second round here. Kev, what do you think about Jerry? Because this guy, there was a lot of hype coming into the UFC with him, and they kind of threw him to the wolves with a top 10 guy like Volkan, and he delivered on one of the biggest stages. So what do you think about him?
Yeah, I don't think he was expected to win at all. And, having your first fight in the UFC against someone like Volkan is a pretty big challenge. Like that first round, you kind of saw him taunting, and he was getting hit a bit. Mm-hmm. I was thinking it was going to put him in trouble if he kept on doing it, because it didn't look like it was really working out for him. He was doing like all this taunting and whatever, and he was getting hit. But he came out that second round. He dropped a bomb on him and just put him completely out. Just laid him out.
Beautiful shot. It doesn't get more clean than that. Volkan's sleeping, and now you got a new star in the light heavyweight division, because this kid did have a lot of hype. I believe he came out of Ryzen. Has an incredible record. So I think Dana White's definitely got himself a contender with this one. So I was thinking about this one over the weekend. Jiri, Johnny Walker next. I love that matchup. Yeah. I love that matchup.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good one, especially with Walker. Is he coming off a loss?
Yeah, he's coming off. He was on that Brazil card, remember? I forget who he fought last, but.
Oh, yeah. He,
It was a decision loss.
Yeah, I forget too. He got dominated though. He his grappling wasn't able to keep up with whoever he was against.
Nikita Krylov, that was it.
Yeah.
Decision. Yeah, he got unanimous decision. So.
Yeah, that'd be a good matchup. Two strikers, just like the Volkan fight. Two guys, knockout artists. I think that'd be a fun one.
Yeah, I agree. This kid's the real deal, man, and he did it on, like I said, the biggest stage, Fight Island. UFC 251 was reported 1.3 million pay-per-view buys, so a lot of people were watching that shit. I believe it's like the fourth best pay-per-view card of all time, which is like kind of crazy. So as a UFC newcomer, you can't ask for too much more than that. So very exciting fight there. Excited to see what happens next week. Let's head to the main card. Every fight on here was just, on paper so good that you had to watch every fight. And I don't care what anyone says. All of these fights could have been, I really believe could have been headliners, whether they be fight nights or pay-per-views, to be completely honest. So let's just start with the first one. In the women's flyweight division, we had the streaking Amanda Ribas taking on Paige Van Zandt. Obviously, coming into this one, I believe Ribas was the heaviest favorite on the card. I think at one point she was like a minus 800 and minus 850, something crazy. And she just comes in and she just dominates Paige in the first round, armbar submission. So it's crazy because I wish I got to see more out of Paige, just to see what she worked on. I know she's been out for a while. But it's just crazy, right? It happened so fast, and Ribas looked good in there. So what'd you think about her performance? Because I think she definitely made a statement.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the same thing. We didn't get to see enough of the fight to see Paige really throw anything or implement any part of her game plan. Ribas kind of just smothered her, got her to the ground, and got that armbar really, really quick, got it in tight, and got the finish. So she did what she needed to do.
Yeah. No, she's definitely exciting. Obviously, with wins over Mackenzie Dern, who I think the UFC wanted to hype up a lot, as well as Paige Van Zandt, who was at one time, supposed to be a star in the UFC. I think she just made a name for herself. And again, on the biggest card of the year, it definitely helps her stock a lot. And I know for Paige, I think that was her last fight in her contract. I know she's going to try to test free agency. I wouldn't be surprised if we see her in Bellator, within the next couple weeks here. I know Bellator's starting up a card in August, so I have a feeling that they're just going to sign her because I think her in the UFC I know she's made a lot of comments saying she gets more money doing stuff on the side on Instagram than she does fighting. So I just don't see I don't see her back in the UFC. I just feel like she doesn't have it anymore. I think we said on the last podcast that not that she didn't want to be there, but I just don't think she's putting her all into it. You know what I mean? So, but overall, again, really exciting fight. So, Rebus, let's see what happens next because I think she's about to get a pretty big fight next. So, curious to see what happens there. And then next, we get the women's strawweight division. We got a matchup, a rematch that has been waiting to happen because there were so many unanswered questions in this one. We had Thug Rose Namajunas taking on Jessica Andrade, obviously two former champions. Can't say too much about this. What a fight. Rose's face was absolutely mangled after the fight, but she gets the nod in a split decision, kind of giving her a little more clarity, I think, over that, Andrade slam from the first fight. What do you think about this fight, and what do you think about Rose's performance? Because I thought she looked sharper than ever, and I think when Rose is on, man, I don't think anyone in the world can beat her.
Yeah, she looked like she pretty much implemented the same game plan from the first fight, but was just able to execute, without grappling or that big slam or anything like that. She was able to kind of pick her shots, move around, stay away from the clinch, from the cage. And but Andrade landed some shots of her own, and you could see that in Rose's face by the end of the fight. I think it was her right eye was almost swollen shut. So Andrade had some moments too, but she wasn't able to really work her strengths in that fight. So I think that's why Rose got the win.
Yeah, and I think this was such a big fight too because I think it does set up for that title fight. And I think Rose, I think she called her shot too. She wants a shot at the champ at Weili Zhang. And how do you not want to see that fight? Rose is so durable. We saw what Weili can do in that fight of the year with Joanna. Do you like that fight? You think that fight's next?
I think so. I don't think there's any other, especially with, Rose being a champion, taking out Joanna twice that's when Joanna was unbeatable. That's kind of like Conor taking out Aldo, for the female division. Yeah, and she avenged her last loss in this fight. I think that's the only one that makes sense.
Yeah, love that fight. I think there's already some mutual respect between those two, and I think that's going to be an absolute war. I personally think if we thought Weili Joanna was good, I really think that a girl as durable as Rose, and obviously we saw how durable Weili is. We're in for another fight of the year candidate. So I'm hoping I think Rose is going to take some time off. Her face got busted up, but I think hopefully we see that in the fall or something like that because I can't wait for that. So great fight overall. Those two girls put it on the line. Those are two the most badass girls on the planet. So shout out to Andrade too because she put up she put up a good fight too. Her chin's made of granite, so got to give it to her as well. Moving on to the first of 3 title fights on the night. We get the bantamweight strap for the vacant strap due to Henry Cejudo vacating the belt for him retiring. We had the streaking Peter Yan taking on Jose Aldo, the former featherweight champion. Great fight, I think, overall. I think these guys, I really do believe it was a back and forth battle. Obviously, people are going to watch that 5th round and say, what are you talking about? But I thought the fight was closer than a lot of people thought. I think heading into the 5th round, I think Peter Yan definitely had a lot more kind of momentum going in there. And obviously, we all saw what happened in the 5th. Peter Yan TKO, via punches, which I think were a lot of unnecessary punches. But what did you think about the fight? And what do you think about Peter Yan as Anu?
Yeah, the fight was exciting. It was a lot of fun. The way it started, there was a lot of back and forth, and at the end of the first round, Aldo took that body shot, and you kind of see he was in a lot of pain, and you weren't sure how he was going to come out the second round, and came out like totally unaffected by it. It was pretty crazy, and yeah, it was just a ton of back and forth up until the very end, where Jan. I think that stoppage could have been a lot sooner. I
Jesus
think,
Christ, yeah.
yeah, Aldo took way more strikes than necessary. You could tell he wasn't defending himself. You could tell he was out of the fight. He wasn't trying to improve position. Wasn't even trying to put his hands up to his head to protect himself. He was completely done. So yeah, Jan looked good. He took out Aldo. That's a big feat. Yeah, now he's got one of these other bantamweights to look forward to.
Yeah, I mean, he looked good, man. His boxing is so crisp, and I felt
Yeah.
like he was just doing so much damage every time he was hitting Aldo. And like, kudos to Aldo because I mean, we all know the guy's got a chin, right? I think we've seen in his last 6 fights. Obviously, we haven't seen in the best Aldo, but going up against a guy like Peter Yan, who's undefeated in the UFC, on absolute tear, taking out everyone. I mean, he showed why he's an absolute legend, right? It took took 4.5 rounds to take him out. So kudos to Jose Aldo there because that guy's a legend. I think he's done everything in the sport that he needed to do. I don't see why he doesn't walk away. Isn't it insane that he's 33 years old? It's like wild.
Yeah, I know. It is so crazy to think that he's been fighting for this long, and like this is pretty much like the peak years. He's like on the tail end of like the
Yeah,
peak years of like a typical MMA fighter. It's insane.
it's just crazy. It goes to show you that he dominated at such a young age, and now he's at the point where people are like, oh, he's kind of fallen off. But it's like 33 years old is crazy. I mean, you got to think. I think it was Conor McGregor's 32nd birthday yesterday. So it's like people didn't realize that those two were the same age, like basically the same age when they fought. So, but like you said, Peter Yan has got a long list of hungry contenders coming at him. I think we all can agree that Aljamain Sterling is next. Shout out Aljo, Flatline supporter. You're the best brother. And new. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that. But Peter Yan, Aljamain Sterling next. I think that's the fight. What's confusing is that I don't know if you saw the back and forth from Peter Yan and Cody No Love because they were going at it. So I was just confused as to who does he want to fight next. He said Aljo in the post-fight interview, but then he's talking shit to Cody Garbrandt. So I'm confused, but I think we both can agree Aljamain Sterling next shot.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's the most deserving of it, I'd say.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that fight's interesting because of Aljo's ground game. I think that's the difference in here, right? I think we saw Aljo, we saw him get knocked out by Marlon, right? But I think Aljo's Peter Yan's toughest test. I think you put him up against a Cody who's just going to box him. I think Peter Yan's going to knock him out. I think with Aljo, who has all the tools and is one of the most more well-rounded bantamweights in the world, I think it's a tough matchup, and I cannot wait for that one because he's been waiting so long, man, and he's been putting away everyone, and he's been doing his thing. So I like that one. I like it in Aljo's favor, to be completely honest.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, and then I think for Jose Aldo, man, you know what a fun fight I was thinking of too? How about just screw it, Aldo, Dom Cruz, just like put 2 legends in there together, and like I love that fight, man.
Yeah. I think at this point, like in Aldo's career, he's still like enough of a draw, but I think, giving him title fights at this point, I think this might have been his last shot unless he like makes a big resurgence.
Yeah.
But I think for him, like his best option would kind of take like Cerrone's route, like just take exciting fights.
Yeah.
Exciting fights that you've got the chance to win. I think that's probably the best path for him. But or even to, he's so like skinny. He looks like really sucked out at the weigh-ins. I don't know if that is some. I mean, I'm not gonna say he had a bad performance or anything like that. The weight cut had anything to do with it, but maybe he'd feel better at 45. But who knows?
Yeah, or even like What about him at 55? You think he could do some damage? Or you think those guys are like too big for him? I just feel like let's have him not cut weight and let's just see what like a big Aldo can do in the 55 division. Do a fun fight like that.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what he walks around at, because I don't think he's super tall as it is. So he might even be like 160, like as it is. And then, to go to 55, I think he'd be giving up a pretty big size advantage to his opponents come fighting it.
Yeah, true. I mean, there's so many fun fights out there for a guy like that. I do like that. Go down the Cerrone route. Bantamweight's stacked. Obviously, we know featherweight's stacked. 155 stacked. So he has so many options. And he's a legend, so he doesn't have to prove anything. So shout out to those two guys. Great fight. Peter Yan and New. Hopefully he can make a quick turnaround too, because I definitely want to see him back in action. I feel like he didn't take too much damage, so hopefully we can see him fight within the next 3-4 months or something like that. So but we got a new king of the bantamweight division. Do you think that brings Henry out of retirement, or do you think Henry is mostly just kind of wanting that third belt? Or do you think Peter Yan kind of gets him up in the morning, or no?
I don't think so, because I don't think Peter Yan's a big draw when it comes to UFC. Not yet, anyway. Yeah. If he can go on a run like Dom Cruz, or I don't know, bounce around weight classes like some other people, then I think he can build himself up to. But I think at this point, where he's just become champ, I don't think he was super well known until the Uriah Faber fight.
Seriously,
to be completely honest. So I think he still has a ways to go before he's able to market himself as a big draw in these pay-per-view events.
Yeah, true. Yeah, we all saw. I mean, I think Cejudo afterwards. I think you just put a post of it. I mean, I think he wants that. He wants that third belt. He wants to make history. He wants to be the greatest of all time. I think I agree too. I think Peter Yan's not going to do it for him. I don't think anyone in the bantamweight division is going to do it for him. I think he wants that featherweight strap. I doubt it will ever happen, but one day maybe he can be quadruple C. You know what I mean? So we'll see. But awesome. Moving on, co-main event, second title fight of the night, which was the most controversial one. We had the champ Alexander Volkanovski taking on Max Holloway in a rematch. Volkanovski took Max's belt last December. Really highly anticipated rematch here. I mean, this one, Volkanovski got the nod in the split decision. I think a lot of people were upset about it. I think they all thought Max won it 3-2. We haven't even talked about this round. I'm curious what you think. Do you think that Volkanovski did enough and won those last 3 rounds? Because the way I look at it, I think when you first look at it, it's like Max won, but Volk got the decision because he did enough, because he was champ. And I think Max took his foot off the pedal after the second, because I think he was winning decisively. And I think Volk just did everything. Because if you look at the stats, Volk won in significant strikes, total strikes, takedowns. I mean, Max's knockdowns didn't count. They didn't count him as knockdowns. So that makes sense for Volk to win. Obviously, if those 2 knockdowns were there, which I'm actually kind of confused as to why those weren't knockdowns, then Max wins that all day long. So I'm obviously, when you first watch it, you're like, I definitely had that for Max. But when you dig deeper into the stats, Volk had rounds 3 till 5. I really believe that. So I'm curious. We haven't talked yet. What do you think about that fight?
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, when you look at the stats, it tells a much different story than what actually went down in the fight. Like when I was watching that, you had it. To me, it looked like Max was controlling the striking exchanges pretty much up through the third.
Yeah,
I'd give him the first 2 definitely. Like when you look at the stats, the amount of strikes landed for the 2 of them are pretty much even. 19-19 round 1, 22 for Volk round 2, and 21 for Holloway. But he's got knockdowns in. Did he have 2 in round 2, or did he have a knockdown in each?
He had a knockdown in 1 and then a knockdown in 2.
Yeah, see, so like
It's
those
tough.
could, yeah, you call those like 10-8 rounds or 10-9 rounds, and then I don't know, to say that Volkanovski won 3 through 5, I don't know. That's just like a tough, especially too, like when you look at where the strikes are landing for Volkanovski, 50% of his shots were leg kicks.
Like the first fight.
So I don't know. Watching the fight, not knowing the stats, just kind of taking in who was controlling, who was landing the better shots, who was, the takedowns that Volkanovski had. I mean, they were takedowns, but he didn't do anything with them,
Yeah.
really. So, like, I almost feel like you should discard those. If you're not doing anything with the takedown, then what's the point?
Yeah.
Especially if Holloway's getting back up to his feet. I don't know. Even though all the stats kind of lean in Volk's favor, yeah, I still believe it was Holloway's fight.
Yeah.
I don't know. Especially like when you knock him down twice in the first 2 rounds. Like I can't. I'm not. I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it's definitely tough. And like you got to feel for Max on this one just because like I feel like his game plan was perfect. Those first 2 rounds, Volk didn't do anything. I don't he barely landed any shots in the first 2 rounds. I really felt that watching it. Obviously the stats say otherwise, but I just thought that Max, a lot of people were like, oh, Max did Zoom training because he came out and he said that he wasn't training for this. He did everything through Zoom. He didn't have his coaches. And even Volkanovski was like, he's not taking me seriously, all this stuff. Like, Max made the right adjustments, man. His striking was on point. His takedown defense in the first, those first 2 rounds were pretty good. He was good in the clinch everywhere. He was doing, we saw like the old Max. And then I do think he just took his foot off the pedal a little bit. And that's what pissed me off because he never does that, man. And I think he allowed, Volk to fight his fight with the leg kicks and everything. And I think the judges saw that and made it an easy decision for them. So, we got and still Alexander Volkanovski. So I guess my question for you would be, do they make a third fight? Because this was so controversial. Even with Dana White saying, like, I had it scored for Max. Like, I mean, I'm not saying I want to see it again because I feel like there's so many good guys waiting to fight for the title, and I don't want to hold up the division. But a guy like Max who, he had all those title defenses. He did everything right as a champion. And to see him kind of get, I wouldn't say robbed because the numbers don't say robbed, but I don't know. What do you think? Do they run this back one more time? Like, what do they do?
I don't think so. I think only like the diehard fans that understand how close the two fights were want to see it. But like, if you were to try to market a fight where a guy's already beat, somebody back to back, now I think it just makes it a tough sell for, the whole.
Mm-hmm.
The thing that really sucks about that though is, so now Holloway's 0-2 against Volkanovski. He's really got no way to get back to the title unless Volkanovski loses, which that could be who knows when. He's got people like Korean Zombie, Brian Ortega.
Zabit.
Yeah, Zabit. Yeah, he does have Cater coming up. Like, there's a whole bunch of guys that, like, if he keeps on winning, like, what is Holloway gonna do in the meantime? I mean, I don't know. It just puts him in a really sucky position to be kind of waiting until Volkanovski's out.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if this will be a thing like where maybe he'll consider going up to 55, like he did to fight Poirier, and try to make a new home up there. But who knows?
Yeah. No, you make a good point. And it's like when you're such a dominant champion like that, but there's just this one guy that you can't beat. I wouldn't say you can't beat him, but he the judges say otherwise. You're right. It's like if Volk can get through all these guys, Max is sitting on the sidelines right now just being like, all right, I got to take a fight like like someone probably higher up in the rankings, like what I think would be a perfect next fight, to be completely honest. our boy Calvin Kattar, shout out New England Cartel. This is getting filmed on Wednesday, July 15th, so Kattar's fighting in a couple hours. I think if Kattar gets through Dan Ige, I think you put Max versus like a Kattar, because I think that like is such a good fight. And that like I think will excite Max just because, you know, Kattar's a striker, and I think that's going to be a barn burner fight. But I think in the time being, if you're Max, man, it's like so tough to make decisions because so many other things have to play out. And it's like Max already beat up Brian Ortega, and he's going to be watching Brian Ortega possibly get a title shot after this. That's going to piss him off. You know what I mean? So it just stinks because I think, you know, I like Volkanovski a lot. I wish Max won, man. I loved Max as champion. He was so dominant. And just to see him, like, go out like that. And he was, like, super classy after the win. I put out a tweet saying, like, life sucks. This is what happens. Like, I still got my 5 belts at home, which is, like, such a badass thing to say. But, yeah, I don't know. I think next it looks like we got, you know, Brian Ortega versus Korean Zombie. I think the winner of that takes on Volkanovski next. I know we got like Zabit and Yair. We got Kattar and Ige fighting tonight. So I think there's a lot of stuff in that division that needs to play out before I think Max can make a decision on things. So we'll see what happens. But featherweight's got some killers, so I'm excited to see how everything plays out there. Perfect. And then in the welterweight division, we had the main event of the evening for the welterweight strap. Kamaru Usman, the champion, taking on Jorge Gamebred Masvidal on 6 days' notice, ladies and gentlemen. Kamaru Usman just doing what Kamaru does best. He 50-45 Jorge Masvidal. I feel like I knew it getting into it. I knew Kamaru was just going to do this to him. Jorge looked gassed after the first round. I think he came out in the first. I think he looked good. He had a couple good exchanges. And then after that, I think Usman didn't want to play that game, and he just neutralized him on the cage. Foot stomps. He utilized the uppercut pretty good. And I think overall, like I said, Usman did what Usman does best. Every opponent looks like this, man. He's 50-45 in everyone now. Yeah, I want to get your input on this too. What'd you think? Obviously, wasn't the fight everyone wanted to see. I think people thought it was boring, but when you're the champion, you're going up against a guy that dangerous, and how hot, you know, Jorge has looked in the past 3 fights. I mean, I wouldn't stand and strike with him either. So what'd you think about the main event in the welterweight strap?
Yeah, I think Masvidal looked pretty good considering, you know, he had a pretty tough weight cut from what I hear. And he's taking this fight on 6 days' notice, even though, you know, he had to have been preparing or at least studying Usman because he knew this fight was going to come at some point. Yeah, like you said, the conditioning didn't look to be all there. It looked like there were parts of the fight that he could have played a little bit better. You know, he put himself on the cage a lot, and like if you stay there too long, you know the shot's coming at some point. I think if he would have circled up away from the cage, focused the fight more in the center, probably would have more success. But this is just what Usman does. He puts a bunch of forward pressure, backs you up, and then you're on the cage, and that's his world, you know. He just, you know, it's like guaranteed takedowns.
Yeah.
He's just smothering. It takes the life out of you, especially with him being so big and so strong. If he's leaning up against you half of the fight, it's got to be tiring.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Masvidal had some good, like, little sprints. Like he would come out and he would just throw these combos with everything he had behind him. Some like wicked body kicks, throwing some really hard punches. But then he would slow down, readjust. I just think the big thing for him was getting stuck up against that cage, not being able to find a way out. But, yeah, overall, dominant by Usman. He did, you know, pretty much what we always see him do, other than the Colby fight.
Yeah.
He gets his takedowns, he wears his opponents out, and gets decision victories.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give it up to Usman, man. It's people don't realize that he also took this fight on 6 days' notice. He could have said no. You know, he went from training for Gilbert Burns, who he's trained with before. And, he had to switch camps for this. And then all of a sudden you get a call saying you got to fight, Jorge Masvidal, who's one of the most dangerous guys in that division. People are not giving Usman credit at all, man. It sucks. It's like, Jorge just got dominated for 5 rounds, and he's getting all this props for taking the fight and bringing in the pay-per-views, and everyone's like, Usman's a terrible champion and all this stuff. But you got to feel for Usman on this, because I'm a big fan. I think what he does is he's dominant, man. He's like a GSP type, even a Khabib. There's times where, when you look at Khabib's style and you think it's a little boring, right? And Khabib does maul people and stuff, but I think aside from, if you take a look at Usman's, track record, I think he's an exciting fighter. I think what he does is exciting. I think you got those casual fans that are like, he didn't stand and bang with Masvidal. But Kamaru said it perfectly in his post-fight press conference. He's like, for those of you who are criticizing the fight, why don't you step in the octagon with Masvidal? And he's so right. It's like, you got people criticizing this guy for winning the fight, and 50-45 in this guy who was supposedly, the next welterweight champ who was going to baptize him. And he did what he had to do. I think, there's not too much you can say about it. I think Kamaru is going to be a dominant champion for a while. In my opinion, I think his toughest test is going to be Gilbert Burns. I really do, because I think Gilbert is so well-rounded, especially on the ground. So I'm curious to see that. But what do you think? Do you think anyone's beating Usman anytime soon? Because to me, he looks almost as unbeatable as like a Khabib kind of guy, because I just don't think anyone can control his pace. And like you said, when he's leaning on you for 25 minutes, you're going to be gassed by the friggin' second, third round. So I don't know. What do you think? Obviously, we know Gilbert Burns is next, but who do you see as the biggest threat to Usman, if any?
Biggest threat? You would think with his style, with him being such a dominant wrestler, it would be either a really high-level striker, which we've seen that he can beat, or high-level jiu-jitsu.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got wins over Damian Maia, who he's considered the craftiest out of pretty much the whole UFC when it comes to jiu-jitsu. And he's got a win over him. So now I know he's going to come in with a game plan, expecting that jiu-jitsu game. And the thing with Gilbert too, which he also has to watch out for, is that he's got pretty good striking. We just saw him knock out Damian Maia, and we just seen him beat Woodley. Dominated. I would say probably more dominant than how Kamaru did it.
Yep, I agree.
To be honest. So yeah, it is going to be a tough test for him, but it's not something that he hasn't seen before. I don't think it's someone like if you were to put him against like a Adesanya or something like that. I know they're different weight classes, but if you were to put him against like someone super high level striking, I think that's a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But Gilbert Burns, he's got high level jiu-jitsu. He's got good wrestling. He proved that he can go the full 5 rounds.
Yep.
The way he did with Woodley. I just don't know if it'll be enough for Usman.
Yeah, that's how good he is, man. I agree. I just don't see, a style. Other than what do you think about a Wonder Boy versus Usman? You think that's someone who could maybe trip him up just with that karate style? Because you look at the top 10, and what Usman's done, man, is crazy, because if you take a look at the top 10, he's beaten, I think, 7 out of the 10 guys. And that's what a champion does. So you can't say that he hasn't fought this high-level competition. If you look at his track record, he's got Damian Maia, RDA, Tyron Woodley, Colby Covington, now Jorge Masvidal. Already has beaten Leon Edwards, who's in talks of a title shot. It's the guy's beating everyone up and doing it easily. So it's I don't know. I kind of feel like a Wonder Boy type guy, like you said, with like Adesanya, with like that super high level striking, that unpredictable style. Like, what do you think about that fight? Because I think that could be, I know Wonder Boy already got 2 shots, but like you said, I mean, look at the resume here. He's basically almost cleaned out the top 10. So I think a guy like maybe Wonder Boy after the Gilbert Burns fight, or he already beat Leon, so I'm not too excited about that one. So I don't know. What do you think about like that kind of fight?
Yeah, no, that could be a good one. I just think it's going to be the same case where he's going to get pushed up against the cage. He does have really good striking.
Yeah.
Good kicks, good all that. But he Wonder Boy's kind of faced Usman style in a sense, with him going up against Woodley.
True.
Those 2 times. I mean, unless he's made improvements, or his game plan is to stay away from the cage and just maybe to outpoint him, outstrike him, and kind of dance around the cage, pick his spots, and then move. Which I could totally see him doing, but I don't know if he'd be the one. The only one I would probably put my money on, and that's if he gets a second shot, is probably Covington. I think that's probably been his toughest fight. And for me, up to that 5th round, I was thinking that Colby was winning that fight. It was super close. Could have picked either way. I mean, that 5th round could have played out and went to a decision, and I could definitely have seen it going Kamaru's way. But I could also see it going Colby's way as well. So I think that fight, ends up playing out again. And, Colby doesn't have the broken jaw. Colby's complaining about, like, his coach's audio getting out, which I'm not going to even entertain that as, like, a legitimate excuse. But I definitely think the broken jaw that he had in the second or third round, I think he got that.
Third round, yeah.
Played a big role in how that fight ended up. But I think Colby healthy versus Kamaru healthy. I think those are the 2 top fighters right now.
Yeah. I mean, so I guess that brings me to like the next is Jorge Colby slated next? Jorge Connor. What's next for Jorge? Because I mean, I feel like this is the perfect time to put together that grudge match versus Covington, but Covington's coming out saying he's not fighting him. Jorge's coming out saying I'm not fighting that bum. So, like, I don't get what the beef's for then. Like, I think this is the perfect time. You both are coming off a loss. You should fight each other to get back to the belt.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, no, it's a tough one because I think Woodley was supposed to fight Covington.
Yep.
I think that fight's fallen through. So that opens the 2 of them up. Edwards, he's not fighting anybody, right?
Nope.
And him and Masvidal have some history, so that'd be, the 3 and 4 going at it. I think that fight makes sense. That has some marketability. I think that Edwards fight would probably make the most sense for him if they could get the thing done.
Yeah, no, I think obviously Masvidal being the big star that he is now, 1.3 pay-per-view buys. I'm not going to say it was all him because there was 3 title fights on the card, but obviously I think he added probably 300,000, probably more pay-per-view buys because he was on it, because he took it on short notice. So you can't deny his star power. He definitely has plenty of room to kind of pick and choose now. I mean, he says he wants to get back to the belt, so I don't see him fighting Conor McGregor. He already said, I'll turn down a McGregor money to get back to that belt, which I don't know if that's true, but who knows? I think that'd still be a fun fight. There's just a lot of options for both of these guys. So the welterweight division, I think, needs to play out too. But like you said, I think all roads kind of need to lead back to Kamaru Colby because, again, that was another fight of the year contender. That was a great fight. I'd love to see that one again. Curious to see if Colby actually does fight Woodley next. So we'll see. The welterweight division is exciting again. So I'm glad that they were able to keep that main event On Saturday night, Jorge stepped in, Kamaru accepted. So overall, UFC 251, great card. Fight Island was definitely a success. You doing that many pay-per-view buys, you don't see those numbers unless Conor McGregor's fighting. So, and it helps that I think they were the only sport on. So that definitely does help. But good shit to Dana, UFC 251. I'm excited for the next one. Tonight, I know we already gave our prediction for who is fighting. Like I said, we're recording on July 15th. Calvin Kattar is fighting in a couple hours. So he's going to hopefully take Dan Igue's head off, hold up that New England Cartel shirt, and then hopefully he calls a shot for his next fight. So since we already kind of gave predictions, last podcast, I just want to get real quick, Kev, let's just go over the co-main and the main event for this Friday's card, UFC Fight Island. It's going to be 2. Just quick predictions, Jack Hermansson versus Kelvin Gastelum. Who do you got in that one? Tough one.
Yeah. It is a tough one because they're both so good. And, Hermansson's such a big dude for that division, and he's so much bigger than Kelvin. I'm just looking at it now. Hermansson's 6'1", Gastelum's 5'9". Hermansson's got a 6.5 reach advantage, inch reach advantage. He's got a ton of size on him, but Kelvin, he's just so tough. He's so durable. He's like such a tough fighter to put away, and he's got a great gas tank. He doesn't stop, but we saw that with the Adesanya fight, or even scored a knockdown. Actually, I don't know if they scored a knockdown, but he came pretty close to knocking down Adesanya early in the fight. Got knocked down, I think it was like 3 times in the final round, and popped back up each time. He's tough to count out, so I think I'm gonna go with Gastelum for this fight.
Yeah, I like Hermansson here. I think the size is definitely going to play a factor here. I think as tough as Gastelum is, Hermansson's good everywhere, man. And I think him coming off a loss in his last fight, I think he's got something to prove in this division. I think he wants to make a run for the belt. I'm going to go Hermansson on this one. So that's going to be an exciting co-main event. Do not miss that one. This is a fight night, guys. This is free television, so watch that one. And then the main event, we got the rematch, flyweight title on the line. We got Davidson Figueiredo taking on Joseph Benavidez. We all know what happened in the first one. Figueiredo missed weight, knocked out Joseph Benavidez. Not too much to say about this one. Let's just do quick picks on this. My prediction right now, I'm going to tell you, I think Figueiredo misses weight again, and I think Benavidez is going to get the win. I do. I think Joey's finally going to hold that belt. I really do.
I'm going Figueiredo. I think it is so tough to come back from a loss, especially when you lose by knockout.
Yeah.
All the fighters going to tell you that fights behind them, yada, yada, yada. I think that's going to be weighing in his head pretty heavy. I think there's a lot of pressure to come back from something like that and face the guy that you just lost to. So I'm going to go Figueiredo just on that fact alone.
Yeah, and I do know that, there was some accidental headbutts in that may or may not have caused that knockout. We're never going to know. But I'm curious to see. Obviously, everyone wants to see Joey B hold that title. So just crazy prediction. I think, I think Figgy's going to miss weight again. And I think Dana's going to be livid. And I think Benavidez is going to win by decision. But we'll see. I'm glad we had different picks on both of those. So I'm excited. What else you got?
That's it.
Until next time, Flatline MMA.
Peace.